What is going on, everybody? I wanted to talk about the latest season pass that has come out. I know I'm late to the party, but I've been on vacation for a couple weeks, so we didn't get a chance to talk about it. But Miles Morales has entered the fray. We'll talk about him in a minute. I kind of want to take a look at the cosmetics that you get first. First of all, the base Miles Morales card just looks beautiful, so we're going to get that one out of the way real quick. Other than that, you're going to get a Carnage avatar. I think this one actually kind of looks a little funky. The card art itself looks better. I think the avatar of it just looks a little weird. I still like my Carnage variant that I use more, but for other people who might not have that variant, very solid variant to get. This is a great variant, great avatar, I should say. I'm not complaining about that one at all. This Spider-Woman variant as well probably will become my main one. I do like my one kind of drawing one that I have, but this one is just far better. It just is far better. And then the card back is gorgeous as well. And then you get an upside down Miles avatar. It all finishes with this Miles variant. So let's take a look at Miles, talk about some uses, his ability. It won't be too long of one. Miles isn't that complicated of a card, but still worth having a conversation about, even if it's a late conversation. Where are you, Miles? There we go. So Miles Morales, 4 cost, 5 power. If a card moved last turn, this costs 1. So first thing to keep in mind is this is both sides. So if your opponent moves a card, Miles Morales will be discounted as well. That is something worth keeping in mind. Another thing to keep in mind when it comes to Miles Morales is he has to be in your hand. So if a card moved last turn, and then this turn you top deck him, he will not be discounted. He has to be there to see the movement in order for the cost reduction to take place, which does kind of lessen his power and his utility a little bit. But, you know, still a 1 cost, 5 power card is, I mean, there's utility there. So some uses from actually, before we go into uses, there's one more thing to keep in mind. This is not a permanent cost reduction. So if you don't play Miles and then this turn a card doesn't move, next turn he'll go back to 4. And on top of that, if Miles is on the board, and let's say you bounce him with Beast, he will not stay 1 cost in hand as well. Which was kind of a bummer, because that was kind of the main deck I wanted to use him in, was like that Falcon Beast bounce deck. But it wound up not being in the cards. So, where do you want to use Miles Morales? I think you can fit him into a couple kinds of things. Obviously, if you're playing just a dedicated move deck, you could slot him in there if you want to. 1 cost, 5 power card is always going to fit real well. In that previous deck that I was talking about, the Beast Falcon bounce deck, it runs a mini package that it likes to use of Iron Fist and Human Torch, just because they're both 1 costs and you can get Human Torch scaled pretty well. So just running that deck, you can consider running Miles, just because you have Iron Fist, and Iron Fist turns any card into a move card. I think if you're a deck that runs Nightcrawler, it's probably not quite enough to warrant slotting Miles in. But if you have Nightcrawler and maybe one other just kind of utility move card, maybe you think about packing Miles. I also think that if you are not yourself a move deck, but you're doing moving of your opponent's cards, then I think it is something that you can consider. For example, things like Polaris and Arrow, I think, are pretty solid options. Where is Polaris? It was actually, I think it was my very last card I unlocked on my track. Not that anybody cares, but we're just sharing information here. So packing Polaris already has pretty decent power for the cost. It requires your opponent to have played a 1 or 2 cost, but if you can move one of those things, and then you can use Miles Morales on turn 4 as a 1 cost, 5 power. Same thing with Arrow. Where are you? I think she's 5. I think they buffed her to a 5/8. Yeah. So if you use Arrow, you could use Miles Morales as part of a multi-card turn 6 play. I also believe Juggernaut will trigger him as well. I think that was one of the main things I was using, was a deck that had Juggernaut to knock things out of the way. That counts as a move, so you'd be able to proc Miles Morales with that as well. So those are some of the main like non-traditional move synergies. Obviously, a regular move deck is going to work just fine, but not everybody wants to run a move deck, and he doesn't fit perfectly into that deck, so you kind of want to look at other options. So I think the Polaris, Nightcrawler, Iron Fist kind of options are your best bets. Vision's an option as well, but that's kind of a more traditional move card. Do I think Miles Morales is very good right now? Not particularly. Like, I think in a vacuum he is good. I just think the kinds of decks... I think it's the kind of card that really needs a well thought out, refined deck list to really be able to run him. And I think if there was a better deck builder than myself that can kind of find a... It would probably be more of a mid-rangey type deck, but just a kind of stat stick thing with like Polaris and Arrow, and just trying to take advantage of moving your opponent's creatures or cards around to mess with their point values while you're just kind of playing overstated stuff. I think there's something there. It'd be kind of like a disruption mid-range deck that plays some stat sticks. I don't know exactly what that would look like, but I do think that there's probably something there. I think Miles is the kind of card that is going to take quite a bit of experimentation to really kind of get right, so to speak. I still don't think he'll be a top tier meta choice, but I think he is better than my first judgment of him was. I definitely think there's something more there that I'm just not really chipping away at to find the diamond underneath. But let me know how you guys are using Miles, if there's anything else that I missed that you guys are doing that I didn't speak of. I'd love some more ideas so I can mess around with Miles some more. Maybe we'll get some Miles gameplay on the channel in the coming days. But yeah, thank you guys all so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Peace.